Shabbat Shalom. There is an overarching question throughout this entire section of Bamidbar that we chanted this morning, which is, why did Moses pick all of these Levites to be in these roles? Any suggestions? Why the Levites? Just start with that in general. The Levites stood up during the time of the golden calf. They did not try to join into the worship and festivities, and so they had proven themselves a cut above the rest of Am Yisrael. Excellent reason, but not, I think, the main one. I think we're missing the obvious. They were his family. What tribe did Moses come from? The Levites. We always think of Moses as just being Moses, but Moses is Ben Amram, and Amram and Yocheved both come from the Levite tribe. And in fact, Amram also comes from Kohat. We saw that name a lot this morning. That was the tribe that was given the most high responsibility jobs of transporting the ark, the menorah, and the other holy of holy items from within the Mishkan. Those are from the clan of his grandfather, that his direct paternal grandfather. And who became the Kohen Gadol? Who became the high priest? His brother, Aaron. It's nepotism all the way down. And you can actually predict the roles people will have depending upon their degrees of consanguinity, their relationship with Moses. Moses stacked the people among the Mishkan service, the Kohanes and the Levites. Remember, the Kohanes are a subgroup of the Levites, with near family members. All right, with that out of the way, we can now say why he picked them: because they were family. Okay? No, that doesn't settle it, because we have to then roll it back one more level. Why would he think to pick family? After all, this is Moses. He didn't grow up among these people. He didn't grow up with Aaron and him playing soccer in the streets of Egypt. He grew up in the palace, away from his people. He stepped out one day, got in trouble for murdering an Egyptian for trying to hurt one of the Israelites, then got betrayed by the Israelites and had to run away for 40 years. And now he shows up, having spent only a few days in the company of his people. What good is family? His family are just like strangers to him as any of the other Israelites, right? So why would he lean on them as being his right-hand group above all others? Well, you got an idea? Yes?
There's a certain loyalty that comes with acknowledgement of blood ties.
Exactly. Whether they had that time playing soccer in the streets of Egypt or not, they still are family. And the adage, blood is thicker than water, is still very true. Even if you've spent 80 years away from most of your family, when you come back and you really need someone to rely on, you turn to family first. And that appears to be what Moses is doing. But it's not quite as simple as that, because there are actually multiple steps in this process that allows him to reconnect to the family and reconnect to the nation, that allows this system to work. So the first and most important step is, what happened when Moses first went outside the palace and encountered his family, encountered his people? He stood up for them. Moses proved himself a loyal member of the Am, of the nation, from the moment he first encountered them in his adulthood. It might have been late. It might have been, unfortunately, put off far too long because of his time within Pharaoh's keeping. But when he finally did encounter his brothers and sisters, he was on their side. Now that got a little bit rubbished, because the next day, the Israelites did not stand up for him and accused him of lording it over him, and then made him fear for his life that he would be accused of murder from the Egyptian the day before, and so he had to run. But then he did something else exceptional. he came back. 40 years later. Now, I know many of us have either heard or experienced family drama where you have a black sheep of the family that disappears for decades, and then they show up 40 years later, and it's always such a happy story, right? It resolves itself so peacefully when the long-lost cousin, brother, sibling, whatever, shows up again after 40, 30, 20 years, and everybody welcomes them with open arms. Not usually. Not usually, because there is some, well, hesitation. Where have you been for this long? Where were you when we needed you before now? And why are you showing up now? What's in it for you? Well, Moses goes a long way to disabuse them of those fears, because he stands up again for them. Moses didn't have to come back. He had it made. He was married to the daughter of the chieftain of Midian. He was living well and high on all of his flocks. There was no reason for him to come back, except that God said, my people in Egypt, your family need your help. So when he came back, well, he got one in the column by showing himself to be trustworthy in that way. And then when he went to Pharaoh, time and time again, advocating for the release of his people, again, he is earning their trust. And then he takes them out of Egypt. He guides them, he splits the sea, he gives them the food, the water as they go. They reveal Torah. Moses is time and time again showing that he is trustworthy, most especially when after the golden calf incident, God says to Moses, I'm going to wipe out all of these no-goodniks because look what they're doing. And I will start over again with just you. You and your family will become the center, the nucleus of the Jewish people, and the rest of them, they're not worth anything. And what does Moses say when he has the whole inheritance being handed to him on a silver platter? No. No. You can't do that, God. The others of our people, you need to stick with them too. They'll get better. Honest. We're going to make it. It's rough right now, but we're going to make it. Moses began by repairing the relationship with others, by being the trustworthy one first and foremost. He showed that they could trust him. He did acts that showed them he was willing to put himself aside. He was willing to inconvenience himself. He was willing to risk himself on their behalf. For the repair of a relationship, this is task one, because we often focus on what we want the other person to do for us. And sometimes there are legitimate grievances and things that we want as part of that reconciliation. But starting with that, well, it's not usually very effective. And if you're not sure whether it's effective, think of the various times that either you or others you know have had conflicts with family members, and how often the demanding the other person move first has led to a good reconciliation. Not very often in my experience. But, while not letting yourself be the doormat, making yourself the one who can be trusted, making yourself the one that is consistent, the one that will be there should you actually want that reconciliation, is a step towards repairing that breach. Now, the second part is much harder. The second part is actually talking to them in a way that shows that you trust them as well. We talk first, actions will come later, but think of Moses and his reconciliation with his brother Aaron. Moses had disappeared, Moses came back, and what did Moses do? He said, Aaron, I need you. Aaron, I need you. You can trust me, I've come back, but I'm going to show you that I trust you as well. Because I'm going to have you be my spokesman, as God has asked for this to be arranged. By putting trust in Aaron, by saying to Aaron that he will rely upon him, it puts Aaron in a different position. Rather than being resentful of his brother who disappeared and left the family for 40 years, he realizes that his brother needs him, that there is a mutuality to the relationship. And that expectation of reciprocation that willingness to be vulnerable by giving someone else your trust, that is a very hard step, especially if there has been a breach in the relationship. Which is why the Torah may go fast, but the rest of us can go a little slower. If you want to at least test the waters on the opportunity for this, reach out to the person that perhaps there is this rupture and ask their advice about something important. That's all. You're just getting their advice. You know, I'm thinking of buying a new car, and I know you're somebody who always keeps up on this kind of stuff. What's good out there right now? Is this a good deal? Is this a good model still? Or is this a better model that's coming along? Ask them their opinion about something about which they know, and show that you value it. And you'll be surprised how that can begin to change that relationship, because it shows them that you actually trust them, at least within this realm, at least within this sphere. That you do not look at them as being the bad one, the black sheep, the problem person, the one that I am resentful, the one that I am bitter about, the one that I have all of these other grievances to unload. Whatever may also be there, that is not the totality of our relationship. I don't think you're a total waste. And I'm going to show that to you by asking for your help with something. And then move from the asking of advice or opinions or input to actual help. Hey, you know, I need to go house hunting. Can you look after the dogs? Simple task. One that almost anyone can take care of. And one that shows the other person not that you are using them, but that you trust them. This is something that we do, whether you realize it or not, when we're doing the job right as parents all the time. Because that is the first relationship that we have the opportunity to mess up, but that is the first relationship that we have the opportunity to truly build from scratch. Most of us are born into other relationships and do all sorts of things before we even know what we're doing. That can sometimes have long-term repercussions. But when we are parents, we can take that little person and we can show them first and foremost that we are trustworthy to them. I tell you we're going to have cake for your birthday. I am going to move heaven and earth to have cake for your birthday. I tell you that I'm going to get you a pony. That better not have been something to just get them to go to bed. You better produce a pony. And if you're not prepared to produce a pony, you do not promise a pony. The Talmud has harsh words for parents that promise things to their children and then do not deliver. As the Talmud says, it teaches your children to lie. They don't understand why you didn't deliver. All they know is you said you would, and then you didn't. And once that trust is ruptured, of course, it is going to be harder to rebuild. But hopefully, if we start in the right place, as we promise, we deliver. And we help that child learn, I can be trusted. But then the next step becomes treating them like an adult. Now that I have promised and delivered, you know that you can trust me. I am going to show you, my child, that I trust you. Whether it be giving them access to devices in the modern world, whether it be giving them the keys to the car when they get older, whether it be asking them to handle some purchase on your behalf. Showing them that you trust them is one of the most powerful ways that you can help that relationship grow beyond a parent of an infant, and make that young person that is no longer an infant understand that you trust them as an adult. Still a parent and child relationship, but one now that has reciprocal trust and respect. If we're able to do that with our own children, we can do that with others as well. Whether it be a sibling, whether it be our own parents that perhaps we have tensions with, whether it be a cousin, an uncle, whether it be somebody that is perhaps more distant, maybe not quite as distant as the family tree of Moses, maybe more distant, just a coworker, a neighbor, a friend that we have perhaps become estranged from. This works. Now, is it infallible? No, because who else is embedded within this family tree of Moses that he has entrusted so much responsibility to? Korach, which we're going to read about in just a few chapters. And what does Korach do? He puts a knife in Moses' back. It does happen sometimes that we trust somebody who betrays that trust. But the fact is that that is the exception, not the rule. Yes, that knife hurts more when it is wielded by somebody that we love, somebody that we trusted, somebody that is near to us, than if it was being wielded by a stranger. Judaism has always saved the harshest recriminations for those that were closest that betrayed us, rather than those that were more distant, which is why Edom gets a much harsher prophecy against it than Babylon. Babylon's not our brother. Edom is. We expected better. And so, yes, we do keep our eye out for the knife of Korach. We are aware of that potential. But Judaism tells us that trust is the default position. Trust is where we begin. Trust is what we fight to create and what we fight to maintain. And only under the most dire circumstances, such as a betrayal of someone like Korach, do we say, okay, now I've got to protect and make sure that the damage you're trying to do does not spread. But too often we treat that as being the most common. Too often we treat that as being the focus of the relationship. And too often, even when there has been a breach, we act as though it can never be repaired. But it is very rare, very far in between, that really there is such a violence within a family that it matches the level of Korach and the wishing that it would be swallowed by the earth. Most of the things that we have done to one another, most of the grief that we have caused, or most of the grief we have suffered, is repairable. It is surmountable. Trust can be reclaimed. It is not lost irrevocably. Step by step, Moses rebuilt his own family around him, and we can do the same, and we can be helpful for our friends or others around us when we see them struggle with similar problems. Shabbat Shalom.